Again. Okay. Okay.
Whenever you're ready, sir.
I got a thumbs up, so I think we're good. Good evening. Good, they can hear me. That's good. We're always glad you can hear, okay? Good to see everybody's come out tonight. Hope you've had a good day. I know some of you just a little bit concerned about the weather, right? Some of you are. Some of you is like me, you ain't worried about it. You know, I have learned through the years, I've been told this, and I've read it multiple times, that the weather forecasters are wrong 60% of the time. I have looked for a job where I could be wrong 60% of the time and be able to keep it and have not found one. So I have not got a lot of faith in the weather forecasters. They may hit it and they may not. But we'll go ahead. I can tell you this before we take up the offering. I held a revival in, how many of you remember Ambraw Association? Remember Ambraw up around Springfield, Illinois? I held a revival there one time. Probably the last one I had there, and it was at Brother Pearl Cox's church. And right in the middle of service, they'd had singing service and about ready to have me to get up, and a sheriff car pulled up front and with lights on, and he came running in, and he said, "There's a tornado coming this way, get everybody in the basement." And Brother Pearl said, "We would, but we don't have a basement." He said, "Well, get somewhere." So they stuck all the kids in the baptistry. And about everybody got underneath the pews but me and Brother Pearl. We were sitting up on the front pew. And I said, "Brother Pearl, I hate to be this way, but I just can't stand it. I got to go out and see if there's one coming." He said, "I've been waiting for somebody to say that." So we went out and watched. And sure enough, you know, northern Illinois, just flat as it can be, you could see it coming across the field and coming toward the church. And we came back inside and sat down and joined hands and prayed. And that thing jumped right over top of the church. And you could look out the front door and you could see it still going, but it never hurt the church. Now, the playground that was out beside the church was gone. It's trash, okay? And so we went ahead and had service that night, had a good service. And then about 2 weeks later, I was back home, and I went to Shady Grove Church, place where I pastored before I got here. And we were about ready to start service, and the lights went out. I mean, just dark. And Brother Darrell Coe was the pastor, and he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I noticed a candelabra over there on the piano. Does anybody have any matches?" And one guy, Ralph Burton, some of you might know Ralph. He said, "I got a lighter." I said, "Well, light that thing up." And he did, and we set it on the pulpit. We went ahead and had service. Now, I want you to know that's only about 12 miles from my house, and it took me 2 hours to get home. Of course, the tornado had hit between there and my house. And like they never got home. And then, you know, for the next year or two, people didn't want me to preach the revivals. They were afraid of tornadoes. But, we survived them all, and God took care of all of us. So, you know, He'll take care of us tonight. And if He don't take care of us physically, He'll take care of us spiritually, and we can all just go home. All right, finished with my story. Brother Glenn, get you a helper together. Everybody stand with us if you would. And we'll receive our evening offering. If you choose to contribute, you may do so. And I don't know what Brother Jimmy's got. We got picked up, Brother Jimmy.
107.
107. Everybody turn to page 107. Brother Rick, would you ask a blessing on the offering for us, please?
Heavenly Father, again, thank you for another day that you've given us, Lord. We're so thankful for your many blessings that you allow us to have each and every day. Lord, all the requests that were made this morning, Lord, help them. You know the prayers of each and every one of them. Just help them whatever according to what they need. Dear God, I pray, Lord, you be in the service tonight. Be with everyone that may take a part. It'll be a blessing and uplifting to you. Lord, I pray that you bless this offering and for its use for the build your kingdom. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
107. Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath His wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take take care of you. Through days of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fierce your path assail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. All you may need, He will provide. God will take care of you. Nothing you ask will be denied. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what will be the test, God will take care of you. Lean weary one upon His breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you.
Gather in for prayer if you'd like to come. All right, as usual, got a lot of prayer requests in the prayer basket. Had somebody say to me the other week, it's been a few weeks ago, was talking about Jimmy. They said, he never reads those prayer requests, does he? I said, no. Why not? I said, well, you're not supposed to. If you have a special request that you want brought up, you can tell him, but he's not going to read what's in that basket. Well, how do we know what to pray for? I said, just pray for the basket. Because God knows what's in the basket, okay? And He does know what's in the basket. And sometimes, you know, it could be something unspoken that you wouldn't maybe raise your hand and talk about. But I hope you always remember to pray for the basket and all the requests that's in there. And you're welcome to put anything there you want to, okay? I'm not going to read it. I don't know. There may be a mouse here that reads them. I don't know anybody else that does. But feel free to put that in there. We have a lot of other requests. I don't know how long the list was that Jimmy read this morning. It was a long one, wasn't it? And there is, according to the Weather Service, a possibility of severe storms. And they may or may not happen, but if they do, we want God to protect us from those. And, of course, we do know what happened in Asia with the earthquake. And I haven't heard about any tsunamis. Have you guys? They said some of the islands were on tsunami alert, so I don't know about that. But it sounded like several lives lost right there. So remember them. Over 15,000. Okay. That's a lot. That is a lot. You know, you can predict tornadoes coming and hurricanes and stuff, but you can't predict earthquakes. And I don't want to sound like you know, I'm a negative person, but one of these days the Lord's going to shake the earth again. not just the earth, but the heavens also is what the Bible said. And the only warning you're going to get is what you get from the preaching of the Word and from the reading of the Word. And we've all felt the ground tremble a little bit, haven't we? Nothing like it will then. Nothing. So my advice, get ready to go. I don't know about you. So anybody got a special request before we go to prayer? Yes. Yes, remember Chad. Okay. Well, let's remember that. Yes. Good to hear Brother Wilbur got to go home. He's still not doing real good, though, is he? So remember Brother Wilbur. He's all right. And some of you have heard Janet mention Jared Gentry. You guys remember here a few weeks ago, the lady that came up and sung that you guys didn't know who she was? Okay, that's Martha and Vicky and Ivan's niece. And her name's Janet. She lives right down the road from him. It's her son. And Jared's 41 years old and got a lot of issues in life, always has. But Jared had a stroke and a heart attack here a few weeks ago. So he's been in the hospital for quite a while, and they've let him go home today. But remember him because they did find blockage, and he's going to have to go back and have some stents put in. And I don't keep up with Jared too much, but he goes to about every church there is in the community. He'll go to one for a while and then another one for a while. You just never know about Jared. But just remember him, and you might want to pray for his parents too. Janet gets awful worried, and his dad needs to be saved real bad. I'll just put it that way, okay? So anybody else got a request?
Remember my son.
Yes, just remember that. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. Anyone else? No. Okay. Amen. Amen. Anybody else got something? How about unspoken requests? We don't ask for those a lot of time, but raise your hand if you would. Brother Danny Cade, would you start this for us, sir? All right. Who's got a song you want to sing for us tonight? Sister Sue, is Glenn going to rap tonight, or are you just going to sing? It really wasn't rapping, he was just talking, but you know, I mean, what else do you call it? That's what rapping is, right?
I thought he did really well.
I did too. Thought you both did really well.
Well, I was nervous. I've never been so nervous in my life. And you think I'd get more nervous in here around all of you, but I sweat like you. I was just made me nervous wreck. But I did what God told me last night, and that's all I care about. So as long as I'm doing what God wants me to. And something else I want to tell all of you. And I feel like I'm supposed to share this, is why I'm telling you this. When he says my burden is easy, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, he literally is telling me when I'm reading that, you know, his yoke is easy, his burden is light, regardless of the circumstance with me. And that goes for churches, people, family, whatever I'm dealing with, and believe me. Right now, Glenn and I are facing a couple really hard things. And when they get to in my brain, I just can't handle it. I say, Lord, it's yours. Because he's the fixer of all things. And I may not always like the outcome. And I hope that helps somebody here. You know, I can pray for you and ask the Lord to touch your health, but his will may not be for you to be touched, and he may want to take you on to heaven to be with him. And that's sad, but that's true. So I didn't bring music tonight. And the Lord said, I want you to sing a song out of the songbook. It's an old song. So it's on page 352. It's called Victory in Jesus. Most of you probably know this song. I heard an old story, how a Savior came from glory, how he gave his life on Calvary. You can sing this too. To save a wretch like me. I heard about his groaning, of his precious blood's atoning. Then I repented of my sins, and I won that victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and he bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is due him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing blood. I heard about his healing, of his cleansing power revealing, how he made the lame to walk again and caused the blind to see. And then I cried, dear Jesus, come and heal my broken spirit. And somehow Jesus came and brought to me the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and he bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is due him. He plunged me to victory beneath his cleansing flood. I heard about a mansion he has built for me in glory, and I heard about the streets of gold beyond the crystal sea, about the angels singing and the old redemption story. And some sweet day I'll sing up there the song of victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and he bought me with his redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew him, and all my love is due him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. Now I'm going to cough. And that really is what he did. When I accepted him as my Lord and Savior, he saved me. And he offers that to any one of us. It's really simple. Just ask him in your heart if you've not done it. It's real simple.
Gracious Sister Sue, thank you. Anybody else got something? Glenn's not going to rap, so somebody else can sing. You'll have to come to open mic maybe next time, Stan. I don't know, okay? Oh, okay. Glenn says he'll do it on Sunday night when we get 75 people here on Sunday night. There's a goal, guys, okay? So you better get your words ready, Glenn. Yes. Because this group's liable to do that, okay? Just to hear you rap. Sister Stephanie has moved. I'm hoping she's moving this way. Yeah, she's not leaving. She's coming up here. Technical difficulties, hold on. You just can't do anything with it over there.
I apologize for my voice because I've had a cold, so there's a part of this that my voice cracks on. But I love the words. It talks about what God has done for us through his Son.
Try Domino's new Parmesan stuffed crust pizza for $10.99 each next time you mix and...
Sorry. Okay. Okay, it's ready. In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored. And the Church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint. By his blood and in his name, in his freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of kings. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of kings. Praise forever to the King of kings.
Thank you, sisters. I don't think she's ever sung louder in her life. Sounded good. Thank you. Anybody else got something? None of the rest of you look like you're interested. All right. Get your Bible if you want to. If you want to follow along like this, you can. I'll put it that way. We're going to go into the book of Judges tonight, okay? Book of Judges. And chapter 9 is where we're going to begin to read. And I just want to remind you about the book of Judges. After Moses died, of course, Joshua took over as the leader of Israel, you know, and remained the presumed leader, I guess I can say it that way, up until his death. And they had, of course, pretty much conquered the land by the time he died. But after that, there was a group of judges. That's what the book of Judges is all about, that would rise up. Whenever an enemy would come against them, God would rise up a judge that would sometimes lead in battle and sometimes just do whatever it took to get things taken care of. I mean, there's some great stories out of the book of Judges. If you remember, like Samson, you know, he's a good one, isn't he? Jephthah's another good one. There's just several good ones in there. And just like any other people, leadership's important. Did you know that? I hear from people from time to time that our country's in a mess. I agree with that, don't you? I agree with that. I can't argue with it because we're in a mess. Still, as much of a mess as America's in, we're still the greatest country on the face of the earth. I mean, if you go into Canada, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you go into Canada and you attacked, transsexuals or homosexuals, they'll put you in jail. I'm talking with your verbal words, not with hurting them. Just say something bad about them, and they'll put you in jail. We can say whatever we want here, can't we? We can, and nobody's going to bother us. If you go into Mexico, from everything we hear on the news coming out of Mexico right now, it sounds like the cartels are in charge, doesn't it? It don't sound like the president's in charge. It sounds like the cartel's in charge. And so I don't want to live under that either, do you? I don't want to live in a country like Russia or China or North Korea, where it is absolutely illegal to worship anything but their leadership. And so we would be in violation of the law if we were in one of those countries and we met in a place like this, okay? We do not live in a country where, though there is danger, not near as much as other countries, of Muslim extremists coming and tearing up our church or killing everybody in here, but that's possible in a lot of other churches. Some of them we have in Ivory Coast. That's predominantly a Muslim country. Did you guys know that? But Brother Jerry goes anyway, and I'm thankful that he does. I'd like to know how many billions, maybe trillions of dollars we have spent on Haiti. And it's not just America. I mean, countries all over. We have poured lots and lots of money into Haiti, and yet Haiti still remains Haiti. Has anybody ever been to Haiti here? I've had people tell me they've been to Haiti. I said, oh, really? Where'd you go? Well, we were on a cruise, and we stopped there at the dock. Well, that don't count. Okay? If you have been on a cruise or you've been on a trip maybe to Cancun or Acapulco or Cabo San Lucas or something like that in Mexico, you really didn't see Mexico either, okay? I told somebody one time about going to Haiti and getting off on the ship there, and they said it was a nice little area, around the dock. We went around the shops and all that. And I said, you remember that big hill behind all that? And they said, yeah. I said, next time you're there, just walk to the top of that hill and look on the other side. You'll see Haiti. It's a mess. It's a third world country, probably the poorest country in the world, and yet other countries, such as the United States, has poured a lot of money in there, and people say, well, what's wrong? I've got one answer: leadership. Leadership, that's what's wrong. What's wrong in America today? Leadership. Only we have an advantage over a lot of other people. We can change our leadership. In every aspect of our government. Randy's back there frothing at the mouth. Now, he knows we're going to get political tonight. He's kind of a political guy sometime. But, in your communities, if you don't like what's going on in your communities, we have the privilege of changing that, don't we? We do. And I'm talking about even a little town like Edinburgh that's not even incorporated. You have the power, you have the ability to elect the town council and to change things if you want to, okay? And then it goes, well, depends on which county you're living in. If you're in Edinburgh, okay, you got 3 of them to pick from. But whichever county you live in, you have the privilege of picking that county's government. And then we got the state, and then, of course, we have the federal government. And I'm not saying all this to pick on any particular administration, okay? I'm just telling you that is a big problem in the world that we live in, is the people that we place in positions of authority and power over us. Now, technically, in America, there are representation, and that scares me to death. When I look at some of the people that are in office in state capitals, and I'll just talk about Kentucky, I don't know much about Indiana anymore, but that's scary when you look at some of the people they put in there. If they are a reflection of that community, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. If who we have elected to the House and the Senate in Washington, D.C. is a reflection of the people, we're in trouble. Okay, we're in trouble. So we're going to talk about looking for a leader tonight, okay? And why I come to this conclusion, I don't know. It's not election time. Is there an election here close by pretty soon, or anybody know? Okay. Well, then just take notes, okay? Use this for later on, because even at this time, they didn't necessarily have elections like we do, but they could choose some of their leadership, okay? And one mistake that they made, and we're going to read about it here tonight, is they didn't let God choose their leadership. And that's extremely important. Listen, as Christians, we have as big a voice as anybody in the political realm. We do. I remember a few years ago, Jerry Falwell and the silent majority. They were a silent majority. The problem was they silent, and we still are. We are to exercise our right. Now, I'm not talking about go out here and protest and stage a march or anything unless, that's totally necessary, and I don't know that it is. But if we will stick together as Christians, we could change the face of America. We really could, okay? So just follow along with this. It's got a real neat parable in it, and I'll warn you when we get to the parable, okay? That way you can follow along with it. And if you can't see politics in this parable, we need to talk after church, okay? We do. So let's start here in Judges chapter 9, verse 1. And we're going to read about 21 verses. That'll get us a big part of the story, not the whole story, okay? It said, and Abimelech, the son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem unto his mother's brethren and communed with them and with all the family of the house of his mother's father, saying, speak, I pray you, in the ears of all the men of Shechem, whether is better for you, either that all the sons of Jerubbaal, I'll say it right in a minute, which are 70 persons, reign over you, or that one reign over you. Now, you guys know what 70 is, don't you? 70. A score is 20. 70 are ruling over them. Okay, I don't want to correct your math. I just did, didn't I? Okay. So he's saying, which is better? To have these 70 people you can come to, present your case, have a council, get it worked on. Which is better? Do that, or just have one guy you can go to? Now, this is the way politics works, okay? And a lot of times it's the way the devil works. What's better? You know, I'm going to get political for just a second. I'm sick to death of federal judges telling the president what he can and cannot do. One man does not have that authority. Okay? They don't. But Chuck Schumer let it slip before Biden got out of office. He said, we've got judges in place that'll keep Trump in check. That's a dead giveaway, isn't it? Yeah, we'll just go to one of those guys that don't like him, and he'll make a ruling. Well, you know, it needs to go before an appellate court or something else, and some of them are, and those guys are getting overturned. So what's better, to go to a group of 70 and present your case, or one guy? I'd think the 70, wouldn't you? But it's just easier, okay? We don't have to make an appointment and go. So that's his argument here, okay? And then he adds in there, and we're in verse 2, remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. And his mother's brethren spake of him in the ears of all the men of Shechem all these words, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the house of Baal-Perith, wherewith Abimelech hired vain and light persons which followed him. Is this thing going south already? They've decided he's the guy. Why? Because he's a relative. That's called nepotism, isn't it? He's a relative. So let's go with him, and let's give him some money, and let's support him. So what does he do? He goes out and hires him some thugs. Some real crooked guys to help him out. Is that sounding like politics or what? See, the Bible talks about all this stuff. It don't approve of them, but it talks about them. I'm talking way too much, okay? Verse 5. And he went into his father's house at Ophrah and slew his brethren, the sons of Jerubbaal, being 70 persons upon one stone, notwithstanding, yet Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, for he hid himself. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shechem. And when they told it to Jotham, he went and stood in the top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted up his voice, and cried, and said unto them, ready for the parable. You guys ready? Pay attention to this parable. Tell me, you know, you can give me a yay or nay, a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't think this sounds like politics. Okay? Hearken unto me, ye men of Shechem, that God may hearken unto you. The trees went forth on a time to anoint a king over them, and they said unto the olive tree, reign over us. But the olive tree said unto them, should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees. Do you know how important an olive tree was then? That's where they got their oil to keep their lamps burning. It was used for medicinal purposes. I mean, olive oil was used, and some of you still use it today. So this is a very important tree. This is one that contributes not just to their livelihood, but in every other way, okay, their existence. And the olive tree said, should I be the king over all the other trees and quit doing what I'm doing? And so verse 10, the trees said to the fig tree, come thou and reign over us. But the fig tree said unto them, should I forsake my sweetness and my good fruit and go to be promoted over the trees? What's the importance of the fig tree? Food. It was a staple amongst them, figs were. So here's another very important tree, one that plays a big role in their lives. And they're saying, well, the trees are all saying, well, why don't you be our king if the olive tree won't? And he said, no, wait a minute. Should I stop producing figs? Should I cripple the economy and other people and come be your king? Now, come on, what's wrong with that? Okay? So then they take another step down. You got to notice they're taking steps down, right? Then the trees said unto the vine, come thou and reign over us. What did we do? We just went from trees to a vine. We're going to get down to the bottom here in a minute, ain't we? And the vine said unto them, should I leave my wine, which cheereth God and man, and go to be promoted over the trees? Me, a vine? Should I do that? Then said all the trees unto the bramble. Everybody know what a bramble is? It's a shrub. A little old scrawny bush. Probably not much, it probably never grows much more than knee high. Something you can trip on. Some brambles, they usually have briars on them too, okay? So what are they doing? They're working their way down to find somebody, anybody that'll be their ruler. And they get down to the bramble, okay? And the bramble said unto the trees, if in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. You understand what he's saying? Big mighty trees that are important, that contribute. If you want me to be king, that's fine, but you're going to have to trust in my shadow, this little bitty thing down here. Okay? And they agreed. Why? Because he's willing to do it. You guys still with me, right? Verse 16, now therefore, if ye have done truly and sincerely in that ye have made Abimelech king, and if ye have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done unto him according to the deserving of his hands, for my father fought for you, and adventured his life far, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. And ye are risen up against my father's house this day, and have slain his sons, 70 persons upon one stone, and have made Abimelech the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem, because he is your brother. If ye then have dealt truly and sincerely with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice ye in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the men of Shechem and the house of Millo, and let fire come out from the men of Shechem and from the house of Millo and devour Abimelech. And Jotham ran away and fled and went to Beer and dwelt there for fear of Abimelech, his brother. We're looking for a leader. We want somebody that'll stand up for us and take care of us. That's a scary thought. What was it Ronald Reagan said one time? Was it the 8 scariest words in the English vocabulary? Is we're from the government and we're here to help. I think that's a direct quote. Help me out, Randy. Is that about right? Yeah. We're here to help. That's a scary thought, isn't it? Abimelech has volunteered his services. And to guarantee he gets that office, he's willing to kill his entire family. Now, I don't know about you, but I just don't trust somebody that's willing to kill somebody in order to get in office. That's a problem to me, okay? So, and I'm not throwing off on anybody. I hope you know that, okay? But I'm just telling you, as Christian people, we need to pay attention when it comes time for elections. And we need to hold our government officials to a high level. If we're going to look for a leader, let's don't look for a bramble bush. But I'm afraid, as I hear some of them speak, and if I want to get all stirred up and get my blood pressure up, I just go watch C-SPAN for a little while. And, you know, they have those special order speeches, and there ain't nobody else in the chambers, but they'll get up there and rail against everything. As if they're so much better than everybody else, and they're so much smarter than everybody else, and they're so much more righteous than everybody else. And we all know that most of them in Washington, D.C., at one time or another have been convicted of a crime somewhere. The vast majority of them have. So what kind of qualifications should we have for our leadership? Apparently, the people here at Shechem didn't have much of a standard, did they? Because they knew what was going on. They knew in order for him to take over, for Abimelech to be the king, he had to eliminate 70 other people. And they had no clue that one of them escaped and came and told him this parable. And he compared them to a bunch of trees. And he got down to where you're talking about a little scrub bush on the ground who thinks he's somebody who says, if you want me to be your leader, that's fine, but you got to come down to my level. Now, I know that in America, I hear people say all the time, oh, well, that, you know, they're not really our leaders, they're our representatives. And that, again, scares me to death. If you believe like those people believe, and if you think like they think, then we're in trouble, okay? But that's what they want. I don't care who you have, from the president down in office, they are influential on us as American citizens. They have a role, don't they? They're the ones that pass the laws. They're the ones that speak the loudest. They're the ones that the press runs to and wants to hear their opinion. And everybody wants to buy their representative's opinion. I came to this conclusion a long time ago, and I'm glad the senior senator in Kentucky has finally saw fit to retire. Thank God he's gone. And I'm not going to say his name because you guys all know who he is. We all know who he is, okay? But he should have been gone a long time ago, okay? Because as far as he was concerned, he was the authority. I'm not going to bow under the shadow of that man and place him on a pedestal he doesn't belong on. Why? Because he does not meet my qualifications as a good leader. I'm still trying to figure out how those in the Senate and in the House are only getting paid about $200,000 and are multimillionaires. I have a problem with that. Something's wrong there, isn't there? That's why they don't like Doge. They're afraid they're going to get caught. Okay, that's it. You notice none of them are complaining they're cutting programs that shouldn't be cut. They just don't like the idea they're probing into things. Drag me down to where we need to be. So what kind of qualifications should we put on them people? When it comes to election time, and listen, you can get a voter guide. Did you know that? You can get a guide that'll tell you what they stand for on everything. And it is perfectly, don't want to shock you, it's perfectly legal for the church to get those and distribute them. Because you're not promoting a candidate. And by the way, up until just about 35 or 40 years ago, it was perfectly fine for the church to back a candidate. But they didn't like that because the church was winning, so they took that right away. See, we can lose our tax-exempt status if we promote somebody. So I'm not promoting anybody, okay? But I'm saying this. We need to put a standard on those people, don't we? I mean, God put a standard on them. Did he call anybody in the Bible that wasn't fit to do their job? Most of them that he called felt unworthy, didn't they? I mean, I look at Gideon right here in the book of Judges. Gideon's hiding in a threshing floor, threshing wheat when God speaks to him, and he calls him a mighty man of valor. And Gideon's going, you talking to me? I'm the youngest in my father's house, and we're from the smallest tribe, and you're calling me a mighty man of valor? Let me tell you something. God knows what He's doing when He picks somebody. And you guys know the story of Gideon, right? It took humility for Gideon to follow the leadership of God, didn't it? It took faith for Gideon to follow the leadership of God, because if he'd have went by normal standards, he would have amassed a great big army and went out and fought against the enemy, and God said, all you need is 300. God knows who He's picking, doesn't He? God knew who He was picking when He picked Saul to be the first king. Now Samuel argued with that. He said, God, they've rejected me because they want a king just like everybody else to rule over them. And God said, well, you go tell them what a king's going to do. He's going to lay taxes on you. He's going to take your young men and He's going to put them in armies. He's going to go fight wars. Your young men are going to die. And if that don't dissuade them, you go ahead and you get them a king. And understand this, Samuel, they didn't turn against you. They didn't reject you. God said they rejected me because I'm really their king. And so God pointed out Saul. And he was a great big rascal. He was sorry, Greg. He was a Greg Wheeler. Head and shoulders above everybody else. Good looking guy. Am I building you up, brother? Yeah. Greg gonna go away blessed tonight. That's the way Saul was. But he had a humble heart, one that God could work with, right? And so when it came down to his coronation day, and Samuel is up there with this horn of oil, and they can't find him, they said, where's he at? You know where he was at? What the Bible said? He was hid among the stuff. This guy was humble. He didn't want to be the king. God had found a humble heart, hadn't He? Unfortunately, after he got in there for a few years, he kind of got lifted up, didn't he? Kind of puffed up about things, and then did things his way, and God rejected him. But then he got David. And David, the Bible says, was a man after God's own heart. So when God picks a leader, God knows what He's doing, right? We need to understand that. And so I think God has qualifications on people, don't you? I think one of the first qualifications that I look for in a candidate is morals. And some of them don't have any. Morals. What are morals? They're doing what is right. Not in your own eyes, okay? That's a statement that we read in the book of Judges, is that there was no judge at a period of time, and everybody did what was right in their own eyes, and when they did that, God would let down His arm of protection, and somebody would come attack them, and then He'd raise somebody up, okay? So when you do things that are right in your own eyes, you're already wrong. You see, there is a moral standard that God has set forth, okay? And I know a lot of people don't like it, but I can't help it. God's expectations of us are listed in the laws that God has placed. 10 Commandments is one of them, right? That's God's expectations. Now, if I have a leader, I'd like for them to live by those expectations, wouldn't you? I've said this for years, and again, I'm not naming names, but when you have somebody in high office that is not loyal to their spouse, if they'll cheat on their spouse, they'll cheat on anybody. I got a problem with that, don't you? Yeah. But you know what the world says? Well, so had an affair. Well, you know what an affair is, don't you? It's just another word for adultery. It's all the same stuff. And if you can't keep your promise to the person that you say you love, how can I expect you to keep your promise to me? How can I expect you to keep your promise to God? Now, those people are not hopeless. Adultery and fornication and divorce, them things are not unpardonable sins, okay? You understand that, okay? And do people change? Yes, they do sometimes. But I want somebody that's moral-minded. I want somebody that has the standard of thou shalt not kill, including unborn babies. Right? See, I got a problem with this political party that wants to protect every person that's here illegally and thinks they have rights on the one hand, and then on the other hand is trying to destroy every unborn child there is in the United States. You know what that's called? A contradiction in terms. That's called lack of morals. There's no standard to them conforming to what's right in the eyes of God. You guys think I'm making a political speech tonight, aren't you? No, no, no. God put this in here for a reason. You see, Jotham knew his brother. And he knew what kind of guy he was. And so he goes and talks to him. Have you done what I heard you did? Did you take Abimelech and make him your king? Don't you guys understand that he killed his whole family so that he could be king? Doesn't that bother any of you? Doesn't it bother you today, church? Doesn't it bother you today when political figures are willing to sacrifice the lives of other people, born and unborn, so that they can have a position of what they consider authority? I'm sorry, but morals means a lot to me. I mean, I just don't get why we as Americans have dropped that as a standard for people that represent us. Other than this, we become an amoral society. That means it just doesn't matter. You can do what you want to do your thing, and it won't bother me. Friends, I'm here to tell you tonight, it does bother us. It does. Morals. What about virtue? That goes right along with morals, doesn't it? I mean, if you look it up, I looked these up and scribbled them down here. You know what the first definition of virtuous is? Moral. It means you have the courage to stand up for what is right. Not only do you believe what is right, but you have the courage to stand up for what is right. Man, we need leadership that'll stand up for what's right, don't we? You know, I'm glad that well, I hope, I don't know that we've got there yet, but I hope that we will eventually, is get to the point where the color of somebody's skin doesn't make any difference. In church, I'm going to jump on some of you a little bit because I know you don't like it. But we need to get to the point where we don't care whether they're all painted up on their skin or not. You know why? Because they're all souls. You know, kind of like the boy at New Hope Church that goes there now. Got saved here a while back, and he was talking to me about one. He said, what do you think about that? I said, I don't really care. He said, what do you mean? He said, that's why I wear long sleeves. I can't help it because I was stupid. I said, well, I couldn't help it either. And I don't have tattoos, but I got scars to prove how stupid I was. And they're just as permanent as your tattoos. But you got to look past that. Why? Because that's a soul. And we got to get beyond all of that and judging people according to their economic strength or their economic ability or their level of education or their background, their history, their genealogy. You got to get past that. Why? Because we are all descendants of Noah, and we're all family, and we're all created by God. So we need to have some virtue to where we'll stand up and defend one another and quit putting one another down and just love everybody like we're supposed to. Right? But what do we got in the political world? There's always somebody willing to drive that wedge right between us, isn't he? See, here's the thing. If they can divide us, they can conquer us. But if we'll stand together, I want somebody with virtue, don't you? Let's go to another word. Ethics. What's the difference between morals and ethics? I thought this was kind of interesting as I looked this up this afternoon. You know what the definition of ethics is? The science of moral duty or moral philosophy. It means that's something you think about, right? Ethics, something you think. You ever hear of any politicians doing anything that were unethical? Never happens, does it? No. I mean, they'll lie on the other guy and threaten them and everything else and then get called out for it. And some of them censured for it. And then what do? They run for a different office and get it because the people's too dumb not to elect them. They ain't paying no attention. You know, I don't care which side you're on tonight, okay? That's irrelevant to me because we all are Americans and should be on that side. We should, okay? But if you've got representation that's not meeting these standards, you need to do something about it. Here's another one I wrote down. Honesty. Honesty. Don't you appreciate that? Can I tell you one of my little pet peeves about preacher? Listen to this, Anthony. Don't you ever do this or I'll call you out, buddy. Just be preaching right along and right in the middle of your sermon say, well, now, just to be honest with you. You know what I think of every time I hear that? Have you been lying to me up to this point? You can say, I'm going to be frank with you. I'm going to be clear with you. I'm going to be straight with you. But you should have been honest all along, right? And we have a news media today that won't call them out, will they? They won't call it an outright lie. They'll say, oh, they misled the people, right? And they'll say things like, well, we fact-checked his speech, and he wasn't entirely correct. Well, has anybody ever looked up the definition of lying here lately? You know what the first definition is? To mislead. Yeah. Well, now, if that's what you do, who's your father? The father of lies. Satan. And they say, well, it wasn't an out-and-out lie, you know, and I've had people ask me over the years, so please don't ask me this. I'll give you the same answer, okay? How far can I go in telling something and it not be a lie? You know what my answer is? Just as soon as it quits being the truth, it's a lie. I don't care if it's a fish story. I don't care what it is. And you guys have all heard me tell the story about the deacon that came in and asked me if there was ever a good time to lie to somebody. And I looked at him. I know I looked puzzled. And I said, what in the world do you mean? And he said, well, let me give you an example. I said, okay, I was wanting to hear that example. He said, let's say your wife bought a new dress and she puts it on and comes out and wants to know what you think about it. I said, well, don't lie. He said, well, she might not like it. I said, I don't care, don't lie. He said, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, I don't know. Let her down easy, but don't lie. And I told his wife later on, I asked her about it, and she said, well, yeah, he come right out, and she said, I've been upset with him ever since. I said, if you're going to ask him what he thinks, take what he says, and don't get mad at him. You shouldn't have put yourself in that position. If you don't want the truth, don't ask for it. But we ought to demand the truth from people that are in leadership positions, from the President of the United States down to the local government in small towns like Edinburgh, and even people that are standing in the pulpit. We need honesty. We need the truth. And these people at Shechem had none of that. And further, I got more on my list. I ain't going to spend and read everything I've got here. But godly fear means something to me, doesn't it? You may not be afraid of me, and that's all right. And a lot of them aren't afraid of the voters, even though we hold their job in our hand. But friend, you don't have any godly fear. I got no use for you. Remember when Jesus told the parable about the little widow woman that kept going to the judge and said he didn't fear God nor man? And she worried him to death until he finally listened to her case. Maybe that's what we're to do with some of our elected officials. Just wear them out until they decide they're going to listen to what we have to say. I want some godly fear, don't you? I mean, that'll go a long way. See, I'm looking right here, and you say, well, where'd you get all that out of it? We'll just read it again, okay? And I'm not here to read it. Accountability. What about accountability? Nothing's their fault, is it? It absolutely boggles my mind when somebody in the press, and I don't care where they're from, looks at a politician and said, you said this, and they quote him directly, and they'll say, I didn't say that. Man, in the world we live in, you better be careful. It boggles my mind. You know, every time an incident happens, an accident happens, somebody robbed a bank, somebody killed somebody, they go around and look for evidence on surveillance cameras. I am amazed at how many people sit around their phones and videotape nothing and then catch people in the act of doing things. And friends, I don't know if you know it or not, but the camera don't lie. And you can deny all you want, But your voice is just like your fingerprints. There's only one like it. And when you say something and it's recorded, you're accountable for what you said. And you're accountable for what you did. I'm going to tell you something maybe you don't know. Do you know, and I know all of you are so proficient on the internet. I know I'm not. But I know how to get on there and look up the voting record for my representation. And you can too, because it's public record. And if they don't promote things that are wholesome and godly and moral and virtuous, and they have no fear of God, you have a responsibility to speak up and say, I don't want you. We got a problem here, don't we, with Abimelech? Jotham gives them a parable and says, you know what, you guys are just like them trees. You got a low life to be your king. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You got a low life, yeah. You ever hear the word transparency anymore in our world? Every government, every administration says, oh, we're the most transparent ever. Yeah. Yeah, well, we know they're lying when they open their mouth most of the time, but not always, okay? But every they're not all transparent. I mean, there's some things we don't need to know, right? And there's some things we do need to know. So we want transparency. Do you know what? Abimelech's not transparent here. They gave him money to be their king, and he hired some really rough guys, didn't he? And went and killed his family to be king. Why? Because he was their relative. His mother, his dad had 70 kids. Man, that'd scare me to death, 70 sons. What would you name them? Would you all be like George Foreman, name them all George or something? I don't know. All of his kids were named George. It saved them trouble. How many of you have heard your parents yell at you and they went through all your brothers and sisters before they finally got to your name, you know? If you all named George, you can just say George, you got them all down, but killed them all in order to be king, and they let him, after he pulled that coup, if you will, they let him be king, thinking, we got us somebody that's going to take care of us. Well, I'm running out of time here tonight. Maybe you guys haven't found this interesting at all, but I'm just telling you, as Christians, we need to wake up, we need to be informed, and we need to make decisions on what we're informed with, and it might change our vote sometime. I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. There's some people I wouldn't want as my pastor because I know too much about them. That's enough said, isn't it? I don't want them. My home church, I would recommend against it. They don't pay much attention to me anymore, but I'm not going to go any further. Judy, quit laughing. Her and Carol's going to go there and die here in a minute of laughing. They know what I'm talking about. We've got to be careful, folks. This parable, this story is for us to learn from, okay? Because they got the lowest life human being they could get that was willing to kill his family to get a position. And I didn't read the rest of the chapter. I tell you what, you ought to go home and read the rest of this chapter and find out what Abimelech did. Even though Jotham, he warned them, didn't he? He warned them what kind of guy they had and what they had done. They had lowered the standard down to where they were going to have to get under his authority, and he was like the bramble. He wasn't worth too much, but you've elected him. You've promoted him to king. You're going to have to trust in him. That's what they did, right? Yeah, you got to be careful of that, because if you do that, it's going to drag you down. It drags society down. It is not in the will of God that we should live that way and be lorded over by somebody that is not a godly, moral, ethical, just individual, and yet we walk down that road. So we got to be careful, don't we? We got to be careful. And what happened in this whole thing is Abimelech began to lead these people astray, and he took them to war, and a lot of them died, and the economy crashed, and everything went wrong. Why? Because they did not ask God who should be their leader. So my advice to you tonight is this. It comes election time. Number one, be informed. I hear this all the time. I hear all, and it almost makes me nauseous. Well, we don't have anybody to choose from. Well, why not? Why not? I'll tell you partly why. Because for too many years, pastors have stood in the pulpit and preached against people just like you taking a public office. And you know what happens when you don't put Christians in places of authority? Just look around. When you put godless people in office, you get godless results. But when you put people of God in there, I never forget a fellow there at Mount Hope Church. He came up to me one Sunday morning and he said, I need to talk to you. And I said, well, what's going on? Called him my name, and I won't tell you his name. You guys wouldn't know him anyway. I said, what's going on? What do you need to talk about? He said, I've been praying about it and thinking about it. And he said, I think I need to run for county judge. That's the highest office in the county, county judge executive. He said, what do you think? I said, brother, run. He said, I wasn't expecting you to say that. Why do you want me to run? I said, because I've got a lot of confidence in you. I think that you're a good Christian man with moral character. And I'm telling you this, we need more people just like you in offices in our country. So run, and I'm going to pray you win. And he did. And he ran the office a little different than a lot of them did. You know why? He had a different way of thinking. Do we have an obligation as God's people? Yes. Be informed and pray about it. And if they're not putting somebody up for election that meets your standards, rise up yourself. Oh, I couldn't do that. You could if God was with you, couldn't you? You could if he helped you. I mean, you might be a Gideon and say, well, look, I'm not much. But if God's on your side, friend, it could change everything, couldn't it? Listen, Abimelech led them down the wrong road, and they were sorry in a short time that they'd ever put him in as king. And I don't know about you, but we've had some presidents in my lifetime I'm sorry they was ever in there. And I'm not even going to name names, but I'm sorry they was in there. Because it was all about them and not about the American people. And there's people in the House and the Senate the same way. I just hate the two sides acting like, you talk about a bunch of kids. Well, we're not going to vote for what you want. Why? Well, because you want it. What about the rest of us? You know what happens when that's taking place? You know what's wrong? You got people that don't have a moral mind. You got people that are unethical. They want it their way. And they want to promote things that are ungodly, and we need to stay away from that, and I need to shut up, or I'm going to have you guys all stirred up and some of you mad at me before it's over with. But it's true, isn't it? And this little story is all about that. Do you see that in this little story? Yeah. Trees, let's elect us a ruler. Oh, let's go to the best one there is, the olive tree. And let's ask him to be the king. And the olive tree said, well, should I quit doing what I'm doing? Be your king? Am I not more valuable to society where I'm at? And, well, if you're not going to do it, we'll go to the fig tree and we'll talk to him. And the fig tree gives the same story. Should I quit making figs? Should I do that and be your king? And they said, well, if we can't get them to, let's go talk to the grapevine. Did you notice how it stepped down? And the grapevine said, well, should I quit producing grapes to be your king? And they said, well, we got to have a king somewhere, somehow, and it won't really matter, will it? We'll just go in here and talk to the bramble. And you know what the bramble said? Pick me, pick me. I always hated the kid in school when the teacher would ask a question, want to volunteer, and they're yelling, pick me, pick me. You know? Why? Because sometimes the ones that weren't all giddy about being in that position are the better ones for it. So we just need to pray about it, don't we? And I'm telling you this, when it comes down, even in your church election, when it comes down to put somebody in an office, you ought to pray about it. You ought to know about it. I've often thought the disciples probably questioned their intelligence on making Judas their treasurer. But they did what they did, right? So be careful. When it comes to looking for a leader, look to God and follow his direction. Stand with me. Anyone have anything you want to share before we dismiss? I just love to go outside and watch for them. A warning, okay. All right. Well, that means it's very possible that God will take care of you. You might be like Elijah. Might go up in a whirlwind. That's what that was, you know. You guys probably never think about it. Oh, that's so miraculous, you know. God took him up in a whirlwind. He didn't die. I believe he died. Anybody else? Anything? Sound like it's windy out there.
I forgot to have Jimmy announce this morning. We're going to have our Easter egg hunt again this year on the Saturday before Easter. And then we have the eggs in the back. If you want to take the eggs and fill. Okay. You can come get some eggs and fill them up.
All right. We'll handle whatever happened. It's not. All right. Well, everybody be as safe as you possibly can traveling home, okay? And I'm going to take Brother Jacob Rutan's advice that he gives me. I'm going to drive fast and swerve. And we'll make it home, okay? May God bless you. Hope we said something to encourage you. If we didn't, sorry, but we tried. Just be careful. And that doesn't include just politicians, does it? Sometimes it may mean people at work. Let God be your guide and put things in the right perspective. All right. Don's closing the door. I guess we're all stuck in here for the night. Didn't lose any life, did we? We can. Oh. Jimmy's connection with the world is Facebook, guys. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. All right. Wednesday night's business meeting. Is that right, Jimmy? Okay, business meeting. You can come visit if you want, but members are expected. You might. I mean, I feel for you if you're going to vote for moderator, so, you know, so I'm kidding. Jimmy's been a good moderator, and you can keep him in there if you want to, and if you don't, get somebody else. But take those qualifications, okay? We ask you that you would. Brother Robbie, would you dismiss us in a word of prayer, please?